Welcome back to the Social Impact Level Up podcast. This is where we blur the lines between business, nonprofit, and impact. I'm your host, Wendy V, and I'm a social impact strategist here to help you build a successful and sustainable legacy of social change. In this week's episode, we're going to hear from a social entrepreneur who has been on a journey to change the world just like you. If you are interested in social entrepreneurship, this is the place for you. Let's jump right into this week's episode. Hey everyone, it's me, Wendy B, and I am here for another episode of the Social Impact Level Up podcast. Really excited today to bring one of my funny friends to you all. This is Jocelyn Abad, and we are here to talk about everything comedy and more. And the reason why I brought Jocelyn on was because she's transforming what comedy looks like, not only being a female, but also being a Filipina, who I just learned is actually from the community next to me in Los Angeles. So I'm Whittier girl and you're Pico Rivera girl. And so we are like
our hood. We are in the same neighborhood. Our hoods are like, yes.
We are from the same hood, which is amazing.
Literally.
It makes sense because our personalities are so similar and bubbly and SoCal girl. And I just never thought to ask you where you're from before. I'm going to toss it to you to introduce yourself, but I just wanted to say welcome to the podcast and we're super excited to have you.
Thank you so much, Wendy, for having me. Hi, what's up, everyone? Yes, I'm Jocelyn. I am a funny female Filipino comedian from Los Angeles. As far as I know, currently the only and one and first of my kind. My story is I started doing stand-up sitting down on Clubhouse. Yes, social audio crack. Made popular during the pandemic. And yeah, I will be celebrating my 2-year anniversary on March 25th, 2021. And the day I started doing comedy is the day I joined up for Clubhouse. So the two of them are synonymous. And so as much as people want to say that Clubhouse is dead, it's not. It's like, if you know, you know. And if you don't, you don't. And you should probably try to know. So I don't know. That's where I met Wendy. And it's been great. And yeah.
And I love that you didn't do comedy before Clubhouse, but you were always funny.
Yeah.
Like how did you discover you were funny?
Interestingly enough, I do have a childhood story. So I don't know if it's because I'm being Filipino or growing up with older brothers, but I feel like Filipinos are kind of known to be like these wisecracking, like jokesters or something. And so there was a moment when I was 10 years old, I was in 5th grade, right? And I have ADHD, I'm neurodivergent. And as a child, I would say my thoughts out loud under my breath to myself, and my classmates around me would overhear me and laugh. So I remember this one time we were outside, we were running around in circles for PE, and I don't even remember what I said, but I said something and my entire class just erupts in laughter. Like, and my teacher is like, Jocelyn, that's not funny. And I stopped and she's like, that's hilarious. And I was like, oh. And so like basically ever since then, I just, I've always just been this loud mouth, just saying whatever I think out loud, and people are laughing at it. And then ultimately that's kind of like the stem of my comedy. So I've kind of known ever since I was a young age that like I have this ability to just make people, laugh. And my introduction, I say that I live and love to make people giggle by giving their funny bones a wiggle. So.
I don't even know how to rhyme like you did. I am so not there. Maybe you missed your calling as a rapper too, but I love it.
Straight up. No, and that's so funny too, because there's another club on Clubhouse called the Music Networking No Egos. And on there, you are given 30 seconds to introduce yourself. So I remember the first time ever, I was so nervous. I was like, I only have 30 seconds. And like, I'm ADHD OCD. So I literally wrote down what I wanted to say, right? And sure enough, when it was my turn to go, I said my 30 seconds. And at the end of it, they're like, oh, Jocelyn, bring in the rap bars or bars. And I was like, wait, bars? Like chocolate? Like, what are they talking about? I was like, rap bars. But yeah, so I guess I just write to like a certain like rhythm or beat or something. But I don't know. I love it. Yeah, I guess it is a skill.
It is. It's innate to you, which is the beautiful part about it. So this podcast is all about social entrepreneurship, people's journeys as a social entrepreneur and how they're making change, whatever that change is. And you, as we mentioned at the top of the episode, are looking to make some serious change. I think the first time you talked about it, I was so enthralled with your vision for what's possible for comedy and how you're going to break this like vicious cycle of male dominated comedy. And I was like all into your mission. So I just want to give you space to talk about that mission and wow people with what you vision.
Okay, sure. Yeah, awesome. No. So there is a program. It's called yesandlaughterlab.com, and they're all about comedy projects that address social issue and want to make a social impact. So for me, and so I probably should share that I'm my family's first generation born in the United States. Yay. I say I'm kind of this proud recipient of some inherited ignorance from foreign born immigrant parents, but no shade, no shame, no blame for being raised poorly and poorly raised. Um, but with that, I'm challenging myself with the goal to be the first in my family to find success with this solar entrepreneurship, be the first to start a business and build a brand that is just me being me, fun and funny. And the project that I pitched was this national comedy tour called Laugh with Jocelyn, from Clubhouse to your house. And recently I started doing social audio on Twitter. So like from Twitter spaces to your places, where basically my goal is to perform in all 50 states of the United States within the 52 weeks of 1 year. And I think it's very doable. Some people think I'm crazy or it's overly ambitious, but hey, I want to know firsthand if America can really handle my humor or my comedy. And I plan on bringing with me, underrepresented voices in mainstream media. My friend Jeffrey Keller, who is biracial, my friend Tia J, who's multiracial, bisexual. Dana Keel is full African and she's heterosexual. My friend Tony, who's blind, and my friend Awan, who's Middle Eastern. We are voices and faces you don't see very commonly. And so most people tell you that you have to put in all these years of writing and working, but for me, it's like I I've been talking about doing it for a couple of years, 2018, 2019. Then 2020 happened to all of us, right? And then sure enough, when 2021 came around and I had this opportunity to do a workshop online with the Laugh Factory Comedy Workshop, I pulled the trigger. And honestly, it ignited a fire in me. And recently I did an episode on a podcast called All in Motion. It's a mental health podcast. And they asked me the same question you asked me. They're like, "Oh, so what's it like being female, coming up in the comedy industry?" And I'm like, what's it like being female growing up in America? There's just so many males, you don't know who's your friend. You don't know who's your foe. You don't know who really has your back, who's out to get you. Um, and I mean, I'll just share it. Like I've experienced sexual assault by a friend. So it's like, who can you really trust? And so with that, it's like, you just have to proceed with caution. And it's so interesting how men want to say they respect women and want to hear their views, but they're so quick to shut them down and like try to stop them. And instead of letting one person who's going to tell me no, I'm just going to keep showing up for the other 100 people who keep saying yes, and realizing that as a kid, I remember thinking to myself, wow, I don't see anyone on TV that looks like me. That means it must not be meant for me. But then here I am, like in my adulthood, pursuing the same dream. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess it's just going to have to be me then. In like the Immortals in sync, it's going to be me, because I'm like, I guess I'll be that person. And on a dating app, one of the prompts was, what would your friends say about you or like your group of people? And I thought of my volleyball team, and to them, I'm kind of like this fearless leader where I'm like, fine, I'll be the first through the door. Or we do Halloween haunts, and so I'll be the first one to go through it, just like to make sure everything's fine. But yeah, and so one word that I keep hearing about myself is resilience. And so as much as like it's difficult and it's hard, it's not for everyone. It's like you just got to keep showing up and keep going after it and stuff, and not letting anyone or anything get in your way.
I love the resilience. We're definitely going to come back to that part because I want to ask you more about these faces that you said we don't see very often. And not only just in comedy, but in general, when you're talking about, people of
Yeah.
color and people with disabilities, people with varying like neurodiversity, we're increasingly seeing more people like you stepping out and saying, hi, I'm here and I'm not going to go anywhere. So you need to address that I'm here. But why do you think that is? Like, what is it about our society that we hadn't already had access to all these wonderful people, wonderful stories, wonderful brains? Like, why do we shy away from those types of people? Whatever diversity, exists, we don't necessarily see it represented at the level that it exists at.
Okay, hold on to your butts. I'm going to go ahead and say it. All right, ready? I'm going to go ahead and say the N word, and that's narrative.
Oh, I was bracing for it, but
Yeah, right. Everyone's like,
it's like,
right. And my joke, I make another joke about narrative and Kool-Aid, like when people like, we don't know who's making the Kool-Aid. We don't know who's stirring it. We don't know who's drinking it. We don't know who's serving it, and ultimately it's like, um, I don't know. It's just, I think it's historically what we're not used to doing, and it's interesting being ADHD. There is a part of the ADHD neurodivergent community who gets really offended when they hear people saying like, "Oh, well, we all have a little bit of ADHD, don't we?" And they get really hurt by it. But they have to realize, and I get that. I'm really good about seeing both sides of the coin, and it's like with that, it's like some people are afraid to know the truth. Some people, ignorance is bliss, and they rather not know and stuff. And I get that it takes a diagnosis or whatever to like really accept. But then this is what I was talking about with you earlier. It's like this. So for me, 2023 is all about shameless self love and celebrating myself and being open and honest with myself about who I am and what I represent and not being scared or hindered or hiding. I think a lot of people live in fear of satisfying others and therefore they don't satisfy themselves. And then they're afraid to speak up, or like me when I was a kid, it's like, I don't see that community. So where do I belong? And but it's going to take some strong MFers to just be like, okay, fine, I'll start the change. You know what I mean? Like, I'll be the first. And a lot of people are too afraid of getting, I don't know, for lack of a better word, just like taken out by it. There are some strong voices like Turan from Clubhouse, he represents the Middle East very strongly and he has a strong background. So I just think historically it's just never happened. And, people are afraid of change, and then people are somehow afraid to enact change, but it's going to be on us to do that. So
Well, I always wanted to be the Latina Oprah. And so as
I
I
love
started
that.
my podcast and started interviewing people, I was like, I am a step closer to being the Latina Oprah. And then I was like, no. I'm a step closer to being this actualized Wendy Veloso, who I'm supposed to be. So
Yeah,
it's not even I was like, let's put it all into perspective here. And I think with underrepresented populations and underrepresented people, it's really easy to just stay in the shadows and not take that step out. I mean, it's almost easier in some ways to just be part of the masses, the faceless
right.
masses.
And you know what you just reminded me of? So when I think about comedy, so my debut comedy bit is literally was a scribbled post-it note that I had just written down the first thing I thought that was funny that I've been saying, and then just going off of it, just off the top of my head, the thoughts and the tangents and the rhyming and all that. Like, oh yeah, that sounds clever. That sounds fun. That sounds good. All right, 3 minutes, cool, we're good. So I went up there and I did my thing, and people were laughing. They enjoyed my energy and my delivery, My critiques were to focus more. And I'm thinking like, yeah, dude, I just threw this together like right before. Of course I need to focus. Like, ugh. And then and then ultimately I got asked like, where are the jokes? And to my immediate thought, I didn't say it at the time because I didn't want to be rude, but was when I say something and people laugh. And then I realized up until this point, comedy has very much been cooked by a specific kind of recipe. So for the players in charge are the ones, writing the checks or owning the clubs or booking the people. For them, there's a specific kind of comedy that they're looking for or want or expectation. And I kind of just break that. I kind of just like, okay, that's what you expect. That's what you want. I can give you that, or I can just give you me. And you know what I mean? So it just depends on which lane you want to travel in, you know? And so there's two people that I would love to talk about. The first is Judy Carter. She is world famous for writing the comedy Bible. And with her, that's kind of recipe that people are expecting. The second is Steve Norton. He wrote a book called How to Kill in Comedy, and it's about coming up with your comedic character, right? And the first thing he talks about is you have to have a flaw, right? You have to have something wrong with you. And that's what you address. And I realized my flaw is like, I have an identity crisis. I really do. And that taps into your question of like, why aren't we used to seeing like certain people or like marginalized people coming out? And it's almost because like it's really hard. I don't even know who I am. Where it's like, so my joke is, this always happens whenever I do interviews. I end up finding myself like, oh my god, you're gonna end up saying your joke. So I'm Filipino, right? And Filipinos are known as the Mexicans of the Asians. So that makes me brown. I was born and raised in the United States. That makes me white. And apparently Asians are considered yellow like the sun. So that's how I get like this natural tan. You know what I mean? And it's like, and then it's like, according to United States Human Resources, Filipinos are considered Asians, of course. So on paper, I'm all Asian, right? And then on screen, ethnically ambiguous, I guess. Like, who doesn't love a brown mystery? Yeah. And on the street, I'm considered Black adjacent, meaning there are people who have told me, they're like, girl, I've been Black my entire life. And I thought you were Black. And it's like, thank you, I'm honored. But no, my A is for Asian, not African, I guess, you know? And so with that, it's like, how am I supposed to show up for a people that I don't even know I can like accurately represent, you know? And that's the trouble.
Laughing so hard because I like there's so truth in the ethnic ambiguity. I get Latina if someone's Latino, they know that I'm a Latina, right? Like they instantly will just start speaking Spanish to me, and they're like, no, you can't pass for anything else, blah blah blah. Then I've also had plenty of white people think that I'm white. Plenty of
Right.
Persian people think I'm Persian.
Ooh,
I've gone to Italy. Yeah, I've gone to Italy and had Italians speak Italian to me so I could translate it to my friends that they thought I brought with me to tour. And then I've had white people, like I said, like, well, various types of white think that I'm just like, they don't actually ask directly. I get like these weird asks, like, where does your last name come from? Right. So it's always this like confusion about what I actually am. But the most common one when I'm in like the Los Angeles area is people think I'm Filipino. And
Really?
yeah, and I get it all. I mean, I would get it from Filipino people. They're like,
Interesting.
you're not one of us? And I'm like, no, I'm Mexican. And they're, oh, but you're like our cousin because the colonizers and the things. And that makes sense. Your last name has a Z. Okay, cool. And then they like check in that I'm like part of that. I know funny, but I did live with a Filipino roommate. So I know about lumpia. I know about balut. Like I know about the jam. I think I'm all,
Girl,
I might as well be part ethnically Filipino, but
by proxy, right? Yeah.
yeah, by association of food. But I think it's really interesting. That's a good point.
So my thing is also like, so I don't know if it's because my parents saw my potential as a child or they just kept me busy to keep me out of trouble. But from the ages of 5 to 10, I know, right? They had me acting and singing, modeling, dancing, ballet, jazz, tap, acrobats, musical theater, the whole 9 yards, the whole 9 yards. But honestly, again, being foreign immigrant parents, they kind of failed at being stage parents. You know, they didn't really know, you know, and for me already, I'm already like, oh my God, I'm different. Like, you know, I don't look like anyone. No one looks like me. Like, so I lacked that confidence you need at that young age to really like excel, you know? And so it was tough. So it's like, and even when every time I thought about going back into the entertainment industry, I'm like, if they're casting for an Asian character and I show up, they're going to think I'm lost. You know what I mean? And it's like, you know, and then it's like, and then if I want to go for like maybe a Black or African character, again, I just didn't want to play into those stereotypes. I figured, because in my head, I'm thinking, there's enough Black women for the Black roles. You know what I mean? Like, and so then that just, and then, okay, so you're Filipino, Joss. There aren't any Filipino roles. Oh, you know what I mean? So it's like, dang. So
I
I'm
need
going
to
to
have like generic woman of certain stature because I just small woman. Okay, cool, got that.
But honestly, girl, I'm not gonna lie. I killed that 18 to look younger category, apparently. But so Joe Coy, I love Joe Coy. I don't care who hates him for whatever reason. Haters are gonna hate. be Beyonce, turn that hater into lemonade. But I love Joe Coy because he is literally paving the way for future Filipinos in mainstream entertainment media. You know, I don't know any other Filipinos other than him and me. But you know what I'm saying? And so it's like we don't see the people out there because maybe they're like me when I was 10 and little and be like, oh, there's no one, so it's not meant for me. It's like, no, let's change the N-word narrative. Let's stir something else into the Kool-Aid and let people know. Especially with the whole Oscars thing, I feel like there's that whole like controversy or something. I don't know. But you know what I mean? So it's just like it's being brave enough and courageous enough to enact the change, you know?
And I think growing up in LA, we probably saw that more than others in
Yeah.
other parts of the world because
Mhm.
Hollywood being there and there being
Yeah.
so many actors, actresses,
Yeah.
child actors, people that you knew who became
Yeah.
actors, and then they end up, doing stuff in Hollywood or commercials or
Yeah.
whatever. And you almost have more exposure to it, I think, in Los Angeles and
Mhm.
other places. So
Yeah.
you're cognizant of the fact that there's no one on the news, no one on any of the other places that look like you. I think when Sofia Vergara came out big, I was like, right.
Right.
We got somebody,
Yes.
y'all. And now
Uh-huh.
it's just making her into a sex symbol, though. No. Like, why can't she
Me
just be exploited for her talent?
I heard that she was in Soul Plane. Did you ever see Soul Plane? Oh my god, hilarious. And I heard she didn't really wasn't really happy with that because of how they just the whole S word stereotype, how much are you going to play to a stereotype? How much are we trying to change the stereotype? Or you know what I mean? Or like yeah, it's going to be an interesting new world coming up. And especially since all of us have this combined experience of the pandemic of 2020. We all have everyone felt it around the world, and so we all have that experience to kind of bring us together. And I kind of talk about that a lot with people. And so, in terms of social entrepreneurship, I got to talk about social currency, I guess, right? And so, in terms of social currency, I've been busting my butt the last 2 years, doing comedy, getting out there on social media. I'm kind of a social media savage. Anytime someone says a new platform is launching, I immediately sign up. I don't care where it's going. If it goes nowhere, underground, in the ocean, it doesn't matter because I just want to get a handle on that handle. And you never know when the next big thing is going to be, or who's going to be on it. And honestly, like early adopters, it's never a bad thing to be an early adopter to get in early. So and so my humble brag is that I recently did the math, and I guess across all my social media platforms, I have a combined following of 24,000 people. And that's in just less than 2 years of hustling. So I'm really happy about that. I didn't realize that. And again, shameless self love. I'm going to celebrate myself for putting in the work and being able to see the fruits of my labor.
Yes. And that's part of the resilience, right? Like the
Mhm.
continuing to show up, to take inspired action all the time, which we
Yeah.
talk about on this podcast, and to have the ability to continue to level up over the course of the time as you're refining yourself. And so
Yeah.
I want to ask, I know we mentioned resilience earlier, but what was the biggest challenge that you feel like in those 2 years that you've been stepping out and showing your face in this? Can you describe a moment or an experience or a story that was challenging for you and how you overcame it?
So doing comedy, the biggest challenge is okay. So I started doing stand up in March, sitting down on Clubhouse, right? March, April, May, 2 months in on Clubhouse, someone in the Laugh Factory Comedy Workshop, a moderator, and a moderator is like an HBIC or just someone who's respected or whose opinion, quote unquote, matters, right? And someone told me after hearing me do a set that maybe I should stop doing stand up. Maybe I should just try being a vlogger or something. And they tell you all the time you need tough skin, right? I'm not going to lie. I cried. I started crying on Clubhouse and they're like, oh, you're crying now? You need to have tough skin. I'm like, I have tough skin, but guess what? I'm also a human being. So if you say something that hurts my feelings, I'm going to react to it. There's no controlling that, you know? And there was a number of people and in those situations, and kind of a double-edged sword because on one hand, I'm getting attacked and I'm being broken down. But then on the other hand, I got so many DMs for people being like, F that. Who is anyone to tell anyone to stop pursuing their dream? This is your journey. Da 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 da. So it's almost like that yin and yang, that balance. And so that was really and immediately I was like, I wasn't going to quit, but I was like, okay, Joss, maybe take a break, maybe take a step back. But then almost in the same breath, I was like, no, F that, And so I basically took the set that they were so unhappy with, reworked it, came back literally within the next 24 to 48 hours, re-delivered it, and got the note that that was the best set they'd ever heard me do before. So there's that, you know. And a year later, I'll say, like I said, this last 6 months, I've been on Twitter Spaces doing the same thing. And I exclusively do this 5-minute earmuffs, uh, uh, pick joke set on Twitter Spaces because, girl, the NFT, blockchain, crypto, DeFi, DeGen, Web3 community, it is one ginormous, like, hot dog fest. I'll say that much. So, so that's why I went with this joke, because this joke, it's 50-50. Guys are 50-50. They either love it, think it's hilarious, or they hate it, start comparing to Amy Schumer, blah, blah, blah. And again, I had the same moment where some guy made a point to tell me that you're not funny. That wasn't funny. I didn't think that was funny. Compare me to Amy Schumer. Really kind of just like, not trying to break me down, but you know what you're doing when you do that. And so it made me upset. I didn't say anything. And then I went to another space with like other people who think I'm funny, right? I told them what happened and they were like, who is it? Get him in here. We'll cancel them. We got you. And so it's such a weird, like, you know what I'm saying? So if I didn't have that, like, someone trying to break me down moment, I wouldn't see who's like really there and has my back. So so it can be challenging to be met with those no people or those naysayers because it's easy to just quit and give up. But then if you just, have the courage to just, push through it, you're going to find the people who are actually there to help you support. And that is like, oh, it's like the best feeling in the world, And then you realize you're not alone. And so.
And also, if people are listening to this as a podcast, they missed the video of me just like falling out laughing when you're talking. And they're watching the video. They're like, this is the episode where Wendy just like peed in her pants laughing. But I knew this was going to happen to me talking to you. So I was prepared. I went to the restroom before I sat down. But I think the opportunity for people of color to show up in the way that they want to and not be attacked in public spaces, it's always such a fear of mine because I feel like the attack is like lingering.
We're already the minority. We're already the minority, right? So it's like,
then you're like breaking me down for being like even trying.
Yeah.
And I agree. Like, I think with business, particularly the male dominance and the white male dominance definitely exists. And I've even felt that level of oppression / suppression and judgment and all of those other things and coming and saying what I'm doing. And I'm like, y'all, I'm helping people help people. I am like creating an impact by helping other people create an impact. And you're going to sit here and tear me down? Like, what kind of a person are you? What
what's your agenda? What's the motive here? What's the goal? Like, Bob Sumner said that, and for those who don't know, Bob Sumner is the co-creator of Def Comedy Jam. He's the current executive producer of Laugh Mobs. This is more Bob's Best. And he says it all the time. He reminds me all the time. There is a seat for everyone at the table. You know what I mean? If anything, and I think that's a big challenge too. A big challenge is to realize you're only in competition with yourself. There's no need to compare yourself to other people. We're all on our journey ourselves and we're all going to come at it differently or do it differently, and that's okay. We all, I understand the need for a certain amount of assimilation, so we all are at an understanding. But at the end of the day, like, if you really want to make an impact, if you want to make change, you got to be willing to be different. And that can be very challenging for some to like go against the grain. And I accepted very quickly a long time ago that I'm going to be different. When people ask me, what's one of my strengths, it's like, I know my resilience. So I'll be the first. If something goes wrong or if like something's not right, I'll be the first to take the blame. I tell them, like, it's cool. I got it. I'll take the bullet. I'll take the heat. Shots fired. Yay. Because again, I realize I've been through so much, like I've been through so much that at this point in my adult life, I realize like nothing's going to stop me. Nothing's like, I will survive whatever shots you take, however hard you want to bring me down. Most recently, there's a guy on Twitter, crypto, NFT. His name's Spark Meta. And he, I guess, is super popular. I didn't know who he was. He had an interesting title for a space. It says, "Can you do drugs and be successful?" And I was like, interesting. So anytime I go into like a Twitter space or even a clubhouse room, I don't really care how many people are in the audience. It could be like 10, it could be 100. I don't really care. But if it's an interesting topic and I feel like I can meaningfully contribute as a female, as a Filipino or whatever, as me, I guess, I'll just say me to represent, I'll raise my hand, I'll request this. And hey, if they let me up, they let me up. And he let me up. And I guess he's known not to let people talk very much. But apparently I talked a lot. And obviously, because like I just have a lot to say. And people know me to be like make comedic commentary. And so he goes live on Twitter Space, which is audio only. But then I guess he has a live video stream now on kick.com. And when I found out, I was like, oh, let me go look, let me like watch the video. And I watched the video, and all of a sudden in his chat box, I'm like getting attacked by people I don't even know. I know. They're like, who is this girl? Get rid of her. She's so dumb. What is she saying? Wow, is she thirsty? And I'm just like, wow, okay. You know what I mean? And then I feel like a normal person, I feel like that would just destroy them. But again, me being me, I'm just like, bring it on, haters. You know what I mean? Like, okay. I'm like, they hate us because they hate us is a fact. That's the truth. Okay. And ultimately, too, it's like I understand that hurt people. So it's like, okay, go ahead, come at me. Like, I'll take your bullets. I'll take your pain. I'll take your hurt. And then it's weird though, because it's like they almost do that because they want me to attack them back. It's so weird. And I'm just like, it's okay. If you want to be the negative me one in this situation, you go ahead. I'm just going to like keep killing it with kindness, Like,
I'm going to take the high road. And it's so interesting to me because this happens a lot. And I love that you were like, it's going to roll right off of me, right? Like I'm so resilient that I've already experienced something like this before and it's not going to affect me. And I know how to deal with my mental space in order to keep moving forward. And I think that mindset piece is so important. So how do you maintain just a mindset that you can keep showing up to do comedy and make people laugh? No, like, how does that work for you as a person to be able to keep showing up?
God knows. But ultimately, I think it's growing up with two older brothers. I think they very much, helped me be the strong female, coming at you person. And then it's just, it's so hard because I do get pushed to the point where I just break, and then that's fine. And then, because it's like those breaking points are human moments and I love them. And my whole thing too is that I love awkward moments. I love awkward situations. I really do. Like I kind of just lean into it. I'm like, okay, sure, let's see where this goes. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, it's like that's a real character building moment. When you put yourself out of the comfort zone, when you challenge yourself, that's where you're gonna grow. So if you're someone who wants to grow, who wants to expand, who wants to learn more about yourself, you're gonna have to put yourself in those situations. And honestly, my strong mental mindset is just it's been a lifetime coming at this point. I'm not gonna no one's perfect. Lots of highs, lots of lows. But I think ultimately at this point in time, I'm not afraid to be honest anymore. I'm not afraid to be honest with myself. I'm not afraid to be honest with other people. I I used to be very, very quiet growing up. I was like that Coke bottle. Like I didn't share with anybody. I kept it all inside. And then eventually something would say something and then I would just, yes, I would explode on people, and realizing that's not right. And then at some point, junior year in high school, I had the fortune of going to a private school in Pasadena and it's very small, tight knit. And then within that group, like I opened up finally. I cracked the shell. I made a crack in the wall and I tore it down and I put myself out there. And from that moment on, I just became like this open book, this open bleeding heart, just like, again, because for me with foreign born immigrant parents, mental health at our house didn't go beyond my dad telling me I'd rather to not wake the dragon because our mom was like in a good mood, It's like, they like, don't just drink the dragon.
That's so weird, but I can see how that would work.
Like don't wake the dragon, or like don't whatever, like don't disturb the peace kind of deal. But there was no addressing it, and it's like And then it's like now as an adult, I realize that, I have some childhood traumas, there my parents forgot about me one time, and yeah, I didn't realize it. And up until like a month ago, I didn't think it was a big deal. My friends with me, but if you don't mind. But I didn't think it was a big deal. But yeah, no one came to pick me up after basketball practice. I had to like get the janitor to open up the like hallway to use a payphone to call the house collect. I called the house. My mom picks up, and I'm like, "Hi, mom, is someone gonna pick me up?" And she's like, "You're not. Who's this? Jocelyn, your daughter?" She's like, "You're not home? Not here?" I was like, "No, I'm at school." She's like, "Oh, I thought you were home. Okay, I'll get your brother to pick you up. Bye." Click. Hangs up. Okay, I guess I'll just sit
No
outside till it
concern for
starts to
my
bleed.
yeah, no concern for the welfare of my child was somehow missing.
And so that happened in 5th grade at the age of 10. And the thing about it's like that memory, the details of that memory have stuck with me to this day. And to this day, I'm like, it's still with me. And I'm like, and I feel like I've been fine. But recently someone told me, like, no, Jocelyn, that is a sign of like, that's neglect. That's a traumatic moment. Like, your parents forgot about you. There was no accountability. That has tremendous effect on you, And so I'm just like, whoa, So again, it's just people willing to share their stories. Part of my mantras for comedy is cope with comedy, heal with humor. And in this last couple of years, I've learned this new one where it's like healing through hearing you share your story, healing through hearing other people share their stories, realizing you're not alone. We all have a lot more in common than we think. And that's going to bring us together. And then for me, part of my comedy, my pitch for that comedy project, this national tour, Laugh with Jocelyn, it's just to let people know that, being human is hard and we're all human here. And we're all just trying to like, get through the day. And, you know, laughter is really a universal language. Let's see if you guys speak my language.
I love that you brought the word healing up because that was what I kept hearing in my head to ask you. Is like it sounds like you've done some healing work through this whole journey in order to show up for other people.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. And it all comes under the same line, just not being afraid to speak up, not being afraid to raise your hand, not being afraid to get on stage, not getting afraid to say a word, because it's I think everyone knows public speaking is like the number one feared thing of all humans, right? We all like know this and hear this. And it's kind of funny how like in college they make you take it. They make everyone take it. They want you to face your fears. And so because of that, I think that is a fear that a lot of people will just let it take over. And I think that's answers your question of like why we don't see a lot of people coming out and showing up for the minorities, Like you said, they rather play it safe and not necessarily live in fear, but just like be like, it's okay. So we'll see.
Now, I had so my most unfunny moment of my whole life was when I was doing a presentation in 8th grade about suicide. And
Mm.
I had no experience
Yes.
public speaking. It was the very first time I'd been speaking. And I was so nervous that I took the poster I had made about suicide, which people know this is like a heavy topic, right? And I put it over my head and just proceeded to laugh for like 5 minutes. I couldn't actually I was so paralyzed. And eventually I got over that. But how do you like not get paralyzed when you're speaking in front of an audience and you're performing?
So in the very beginning, I've been playing around with like introductions, how I start. And, one of my early starts, I used to thank people for being there and basically enabling my need for this adult attention seeking behavior. You know, we're, we just love open public mockery now, don't we? And again, kind of just like icebreakers is what they call them. Kind of just like breaking that ice, like I know I'm here to make you laugh, but I might not. So yeah, I think that's just years of me being a clown, years of me being like you know, willing to just be out there, be heard, be laughed at, be yelled at, be like what's the word, disciplined. I've always leaned into this extrovertness. And I say that I'm the extrovert that introverts hate, but want to like be friends with. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, I'll be, like I said, like I'll be the first one out. So I'm like the introvert, like, look. And introverts are like, oh, we hate her, so much attention, but we're just going to follow her. I'm like, come on, introverts. You can follow my shadow. Let's go. You know what I'm saying? Because I get it. I understand. Like, I think that's another strong point of mine. It's like I I'm and I don't know, but I'm literally, and I'll say it proudly, like I'm probably the most non-judgmental person anyone could ever meet. I am probably one of the most open and honest and encouraging. And again, I'm very good at seeing both sides of the story. I can see why some people might not think my jokes are funny and how some might think they are. But I'm just not a I think I've been made fun of so much and laughed at so much in very hard, cruel ways that like it's like water for like, like it's just easy to just take people's reactions to me and just like again, just water for ducks back. So yeah.
No, that's a really great statement. Like just being able to lead all the introverts. It's like,
But I'm that annoying extrovert that annoys the introverts. You're
I
like, we'll stop all over it. I know.
that's the friend,
Yeah, I'm
right?
in
And
the
I
background.
that's
She's one of
funny.
my number one fans, so I'm happy she's here.
Oh, awesome. I love the support. And I think for me, it's the same way. That's why I plan events, right? Because I'm always hurting people and I'm the extrovert that doesn't mind being like, hi, I'm the greeter here at my
Yeah.
event.
Yeah. Super connector. We're networkers, we're community builders. And because of that, we understand that like not everyone's gonna vibe with the tribe, but then we all wanna have a common goal. And so like that willingness to like work with other people that don't mesh with you and to try to bring people together. I think that's what helps with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's why I've been creating this little podcast and the collective and all the things that go along with it, all of our guests and all the people that are in our collective, because I'm like herding folks into like, let's all explore social entrepreneurship because there's a better
Yes.
way to do this, right? Like, and if we have all these diverse voices and we have all these diverse people with all these different talents, we shouldn't let them just get like washed into the background. We need to be like elevating
Absolutely.
and lifting and doing all this collective impact stuff. And that's why we've created this platform.
It's so funny because I'm just like I'm looking into trademarking and like starting a business and like you think of like phrases and it's like all the and like you heard me earlier with rhyming it and I love alliteration. Alliteration is like my favorite thing to do. So it's like power of the people, this whole mob mentality, but not so much like mean, And it's like, and I truly firmly believe that like teamwork makes the dream work, and I've worked in like not corporate settings, but just like hierarchy settings. And usually the person at the top is by themselves. They're all lonely and they're like, so it's like, and it's like, I don't think anyone wants to be that lonely at the top, that I don't know. But then again, I don't know because I'm a minority. So we'll see when I get there, I guess.
Right. I can't say that I honestly ever been at the pinnacle of anything. So I think I've been again the middle management and lower, right? I don't. Yeah, I don't know what this is the first time I've been a CEO and it is pretty lonely around here. So let me tell you, I'm a solopreneur and I'm also my janitor. So we're good.
All the rules, all the rules.
All the things that I'm happy to show up for all those things, right? Because at least I'm not underneath somebody.
Exactly.
That is the point. So, a couple last questions. One, I wanted to hear from you, like in your big vision for what do you see in your future, like thinking forward to where you want to go. What does that look like for you when you say, like, this is how I'm transforming comedy, or this is what I'm here to do?
You're so crazy because, like, God, the world works in mysterious ways. I'm such a clown, but no. So, there's a organization. They're called Women in Cloud. Last month, they attempted to make a World Guinness record for vision boards submitted online virtually. I don't know. So with that, I created my vision board. You can see it. My vision board, my background. Maybe I'll get on my background. But you have to have images, and then you have to have like a statement, and you have to have it handwritten. There you go. I'll just go and do that. So this is my vision board, right? And then the images at the bottom are money going to a hand, a stand-up set, a laptop, a pen and paper, a heart, a book, a TV set, a film camera, and a globe or a globe with a airplane. And basically, so you ask and I shall share. So you have to write in hand. And so I wrote in hand, I pledge to make this vision a reality. And it says, Dear Universe, in the immortal words of the Doors, the time to hesitate is through. I have a story worth writing and sharing. My comedy origin story, how I started doing stand-up sitting down, social audio only on Clubhouse. And my first generation female Filipino from Los Angeles, California, growing up story. Inherited ignorance. No shade, no shame, no blame. How I was raised poorly and poorly raised in the United States. American dream for my foreign born immigrant parents did not go beyond refuge, family, house, home. My American dream is not better. It is bigger and brighter. I was born to create and elevate. I'm here to connect and collaborate. I'm excited to entertain and educate. I will always follow my dreams and actively pursue all my passions wholeheartedly. I will be the first in my family to find success with solo entrepreneurship. I am limitless. I want to get paid to perform live comedy and be a stand-up comedian, launch an online business, sell merchandise and digital products, write scripts, publish a book, produce a feature film and episodic, find a life partner, be loved, travel the world. I will be healthy and happy with love, Funny Jocelyn. So that's like basically my big picture. And for me, it's like, I just see myself creating a platform for people to share their voices to as well. You know, a lot of people hear my story and they think it's pretty inspiring because again, I kind of just go in with this fearless F it attitude online. So after that live with that guy Bark Meta on kick.com, I changed my name on the platform from Funny Jocelyn to Team DGAF. Just to be like, you know what I mean? Like, cause you have to be that way. Because yeah, haters are gonna hate and it's okay. And so yeah, I definitely see myself becoming a pretty I don't want to say famous because I'm not really after the fame. I'm just after being successful at doing what I love. And that's just entertaining people, making them laugh. And by success, I mean just, you know, making enough money to afford my living and to help others. Do you know who Pete Cohen is? Cohen is?
No, who's that?
Okay, so Pete Cohen is a public speaker mentor, and I love him. I work with him on Clubhouse, and he talks about your future self, right? What does this person look like? What do you call them? What's their name? You know, in terms of one, health and fitness. Mine is the active athlete. In love and romance, I'm the hopeful romantic. And then in terms of wealth and finance, I'm the disposable income distributor. Basically, yeah, I make enough money to support myself and my living and to support and share with others. And that's where I want to be. And that's where my goal. And that's where I see myself in the future.
And
Good
that's
question.
why you're a social entrepreneur, because your goal is not just to keep all that wealth to yourself, but to really
No.
spread it around to other people and help them with their journey.
Yeah.
And I know we talked a little bit before this about love, that you just reminded me when you were talking about, you know, the partner you deserve. You're such a big vessel, and you definitely need the right partner to
I
support
do.
you in your journey. And I just think that's such a beautiful reminder for a lot of us who are women, who are stepping out on our own, who are being the biggest, boldest version of ourselves, to expect that there is another person who will appreciate that vessel and not try to support or hinder it.
Yeah. Oh my God. So again, you can look up your birthday cards. Basically, the day that you were born reflects certain cards in the 52 play card deck. When people look up my birthday, I guess I'm like a king of clubs and like or eight of spades or something. I have it written down somewhere. But basically, when they read it, like, oh yeah, you have a strong like alpha male kind of energy. And I was like, oh my God, I get told by the guys that all the time. Like I'm too alpha and they want to be the alpha. And I'm like, okay, well then be the alpha. I don't know. I'm 100% switch. We go back and forth like, hey, like I'll work with you. But so here's the thing. Yes, I definitely need someone who's going to support me because I can like just thinking about my most recent dating experiences, like I cannot be with someone who's going to be jealous or insecure. You know, I can't be with someone who's going to be offended by me networking and, you know, as women, it's inherent. We have to flirt. Guys do it too, but for some reason, women get easily like we're first to get persecuted for doing that, you know? And it's like, what? Like, we're systemically brainwashed to be accommodating, to be like flattering to people, to give people like, you know, space or whatever. And you're gonna attack me for that? No. And this is another thing, like moving forward in terms of looking for a life partner, it's like I realized I wasted a lot of time being with someone trying to convince them otherwise. Most specifically, I was dated a guy who said I was argumentative. And I'm like, I'm not argumentative. Like, what? Like, okay, well, let me just like, no, let me prove to you that I'm not by being together, but bad, you know? And so yeah, and then more frequently, the guy was like, "You're untrustworthy," and I was like, "What? Like I'm the most honest, like real person. How can you say that?" And then it's like you have to realize, like, it's not on us to change somebody else's perspective of us. It really isn't. All we can do is just keep showing up as our genuine, true, authentic self. And then if someone accepts it, they don't, because you're going to waste a lot of your time, energy, and effort. You're really going to deplete yourself trying to prove someone otherwise. So the day I meet someone who accepts me for who I am, all work in progress as it is, and, can support me and doesn't get jealous or insecure and can trust me, then yeah, that'll be my life partner. I've yet to meet that person yet, but that's my advice for anyone out there.
I love the hopeless romantic, because that's true, that it's like you want all those things, but you also are not going to be willing to accommodate or to suppress yourself in order to
Yes.
get those things. Yeah,
Yeah.
I completely agree. And I can parallel all of the things you said for sure.
Yeah.
All right, girl. So last question. If people have laughed or had fun during this episode, thought that you were an amazing person like I do, where can people find you, and what might they want to connect to you about? And what do you need from people to support you?
So glad you asked. Great question. Okay, so I've packaged 2 pieces of video content of mine that I'm going to be selling as my first digital products when I launch my online business, which will be happening very soon and shortly. Please go to my website, laughwithjocelyn.com. Sign up for my email mailing list so you'll be the first to know when that's happening and when's it going on. And just follow me on social media on any platform. I'm very accessible. I'm very approachable. And like I said, I'm on all of them. Twitter mostly, and Clubhouse. I'm Funny Jocelyn on there. And then on Instagram, I'm Laugh with Jocelyn too. And yeah, yeah, that's about it. I don't know. Like I'm so early. I'm so early. It's so new that I'm just like, yes, 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 yes. So like, yeah, if you, and I tell people, like, and that's how I grow my social currency organically. I tell people, please follow me if you find me genuinely entertaining and funny. If you don't, then don't, because that's how I know.
Yeah. And then when you're on your 52-week world tour, or United States tour, people
Yes.
can then follow you and go to your shows.
Right. And that's my thing. I want to, as much as like I'm online, you social currency, at the end of the day, I want to meet you in real life. I want to be with people out in real life. I want to be IRL. One of my things I say is like free hugs. I'll have a free hugging booth. Because again, like that's what people need. They crave that genuine, sincere human connection. And I can't fake anything. The fakest thing about me at one point was my eyelashes, that's it. So it's like, if you want real, genuine, sincere like people or person, that's me. So
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to pick up on my hug when I go home next time. I'm going to call you from Whittier and like, hey, let's meet up and get that hug on and get our theater mia.
oh, girl, I love their coffee. It's so good. It's so good.
Shout out to Latino owned brands. And I appreciate your time. I appreciate the laughs. I have had I've had a blast in this episode. And I think that people will just definitely resonate with all the things that you shared. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of our collective and for just being you and being able to be unapologetically an amazing person. So take care. And it's good to see you. Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everyone, for being here for this episode. It's been great to have Jocelyn. And we will be back with another episode of the Social Impact Level Up podcast. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Social Impact Level Up podcast. It's been awesome to interview today's guest, and I hope that you leave inspired to take action. If you're looking for any of the information we spoke about, it's probably down in the show notes. Make sure that you're checking them out and you're clicking on any of the links that seem exciting to you. If you are looking for a coach or a consultant to help you with your social impact or your sustainability, reach out to me via my website, hop on my email list, or jump into one of my programs. All of the links are below. So excited to have you as part of the collective. Make sure that you come back and join us for another episode next week.